Hi, this is Hamish Mackenzie 7 and I thought I'd do a little cooking video of a meal that I prepare quite often on the trail. And it's pretty simple and it's very tasty. It's called Pasta Aglio. Now what you do is, first of all, it's helpful to have a larger pot for something like this. This is a 12 centimeter Imusa mug. You could use I've done it in MSR Titan kettle as well. I have my stove here. It is a Minibulldesign Bios number 4. So first I'm going to prime the wick and just a little bit of fuel. I actually have 2.5 cups of water. So I will fill it covering the bottom of the D there. Just touching the bottom of the D. And that'll get me 2.5 cups of water to a boil. I know from experience that's probably just over an ounce of alcohol. I'm not sure, I don't really measure it, so here's how full it is. I'll light it, let it prime. If I'm out in the woods, I'll hold my pot over just to not waste any fuel. I use a MSR mini pot grabber with my pot because I find I like it better, more stable. Yeah, there it goes, it's bloomed out. So, there. So now what I'll do is I'll just wait for it to boil and then I'll come back. Okay, the water is at a rolling boil. So, I'm going to add the noodles. What I have here is 4.5 ounces of spaghetti broken into quarters. I'll do it this way. Well, the water, I didn't mention before, I did put some salt in the water. Normally I'd have I like using a chopstick for this. This isn't obviously the chopstick I'd bring on a trail. It's huge. So bring the water to a boil. There's a couple ways you can cook your noodles. You can put your pot in a cozy, or if you want to, you can simmer them. It depends on the situation, but usually I'll simmer my noodles. The important thing is initially to stir them. It's spaghetti, by the way. To stir them and don't let them stick in the beginning stages. I'm sure you've cooked spaghetti before. Okay, my stove continued to boil for about 1.5 minutes. Now you can put it in a pot cozy or you could simmer it. Now the BIOS is not really a simmering stove. You could put more fuel in it and just have it going full blast. What I do is I'll find some rocks, so I'm using a pot stand here instead. And I have my little tealight simmer stove. It's a tealight with a little bit of carbon felt kind of folded up. So I'll find a few rocks and I will fill this up. It takes very little fuel, I weighed it one time, I think it was about 7 grams of fuel. And I'll light it. Get my lighter. Now this is a little higher, this pot stand, the stones. I usually like to get it around 3/4 of an inch away from the pot. And I put a little piece of foil underneath. Now what this does is it keeps your water temperature up and it makes it happen a little faster. If you're using the pot cozy method, basically what you do is if you're at sea level, you double your sort of pot cozy time for simmering time. So if you like your noodles fairly al dente like I do, and you're only going to cook them say 7 minutes, you would put them in a pot cozy for 14 minutes. But at altitude, it's going to take longer and you have to test them every once in a while. I like to boil them, and I use my little simmer stove, my little tealight simmer stove, to keep the temperature going. So that will just barely boil, and I'll keep that going for a while. Okay, I reset my simmer stove at a better height by propping it up on a little sponge. Like I said, in the wild I'd use rocks and set it. It would still, I'd get it even closer to the stove than that, about another 1/4 of an inch or so lower. But that's fine to keep your water just staying hot, and there's no real bubbles right now, but usually they'll see some bubbles. We'll see the temperature. I have my probe here. Still going up. Okay. So the water is 208.5 degrees Fahrenheit. You don't have to do it this way. It's just an option. And it depends on how much weight you're carrying and what you feel comfortable carrying. Okay, my little stove, it's more or less gone out now. It's still running, but it's not really doing anything. The stove, on a filled up, it takes about 5 grams of fuel, and it'll run around 5 minutes. And that just about gets it done. I just tested the noodles, and they are the way I like them. So what I'm going to do now is drain off not all the liquid, but most of the liquid. I'll leave about 1/2 cup worth of water behind. Okay, I drained off the noodles, and I don't know if you can see, there's still quite a bit of water in there. Now on the trail you're going to need a container, one of those Ziploc containers or a bowl or something. So the next stage is you're going to have to put a little more fuel, not too much because you only need about 2 minutes now, in your little simmering stove, and you do need a flame for this. And what you're going to do, it's not hot now, is you're on the trail, you'll have your small little container of olive oil, and you'll put about 1/2 ounce of olive oil in your pot. And then what you're going to do is you're going to add your first ingredient, which is fresh garlic. But what you can actually do is chop up the garlic and store it in olive oil in a container, and that way it stores. But garlic keeps pretty well. And you're going to simmer that real quick, not for long. You can actually hear it, because you don't want your garlic to burn, because then it tastes bitter. So very quickly, for just 45 seconds, maybe a minute. Doesn't take much heat to get sizzling up. Let that cook for a bit. Now you're going to add your next set of ingredients, which is basically spices. You're going to have, they're all mixed up already in here. On here I have a pinch of chili flakes, a pinch of oregano, some peppercorns, some pepper, a little bit of salt, and these are blanched slivered almonds, about 2 tablespoons, and that adds about 80 or 90 calories. I'm going to throw those in. You keep that all in a little Ziploc bag, and you're going to cook that for, again, about 60 seconds. You will see your olives start to turn a little bit translucent. They are not the olives, sorry, the almonds. They cook very quickly. I'll just give you a quick shot. Just simmering up. Actually, what you can do, and I didn't have any, but you put an anchovy or two in your olive oil with your cut up garlic, and that's how you're supposed to make it. I didn't have an anchovy, and that makes it really nice. Just one chopped up is just great, just for the flavor. So you have 4.5 ounces of olive spaghetti, so that's about 450 calories. You have 2 tablespoons of almonds, that is about 80 or 90 calories. And you have half a teaspoon or half an ounce of olive oil, that is about 100 calories. And this looks like it's done enough. It doesn't have to cook much. And then what you do is you add your noodles with the liquid. And you toss it up. The starch in the spaghetti is going to thicken that little bit of water up. You could add like half a teaspoon or so of mashed potatoes. That'll thicken it up and give you kind of a sauce. Also, what you're going to add is Parmesan cheese. And that again will add to your caloric amount. So you're probably going to go around half an ounce of cheese. So I usually put about 1, 2, 3, 4. That's about how much cheese I'd put on in a hiking situation. I always have Parmesan cheese with me. I'm going to switch forks. I think my flame is out. So, toss it all together. And you have what is known as Pasta Aglio. There is, I don't know if you can see that. It's a little bit like pasta alfredo. It's really good. It tastes great. Better than any dehydrated meal you're going to have, and I think you'll really enjoy it. I do it all the time. Thanks for watching. I'm Hamish McKenzie, and cheers.